On this episode, Max will tell us how he, being the youngest talent scout in NBA history, has now led to him being 80 years old and still starting something new. So Max, as the youngest talent scout in NBA history, how tall are you? I'm just kidding.
A couple inches shorter than I used to be, unfortunately.
Hello and welcome to the Fractional Executive Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Kauth. The Fractional Executive Podcast is for established founders and family enterprise owners with businesses under $10 million in annual revenue and are currently stuck on a plateau of no growth. Now, in order to help you grow your business and get it off that terrible no growth plateau, we need to get more great guests on this podcast like Max coming up here. And to do that, please help us grow the show by sharing the podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow the podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. This helps us grow the podcast, get great guests on the podcast, and help you grow your business. We also want this to be interactive, so please leave comments and feedback, reach out to us, contact the show, and I'll answer your business growth questions right here on the show. Now, today we have our guest, Max Shapiro. Max is the founder and CEO of PeopleConnect Staffing, which he started to help founders find key executives in tech, medical device, professional services, consumer products, and other industries. He also was the founder and CEO of Pitchforce, which gives founders and executives weekly networking opportunities with investors. He is also the co-founder of Runway Innovation Hub, and he is an advisor and investor himself. Now, this is interesting. He got his start in the NBA, and he is the youngest talent scout in NBA history. So, Max, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Max, as the youngest talent scout in NBA history, how tall are you? I'm just kidding.
A couple inches shorter than I used to be, unfortunately.
You did tell me before the show that when you were 12, you were over 6 feet tall, right?
Correct.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, how did those experiences as the youngest talent scout in NBA history shape you and your future as the founder of multiple businesses?
You know, it's funny. In the recruiting business, one of the questions we ask people is there one thing that happened to you when you were up to age 12 that affected you and has something to do with where you are today? And for me, that is when a basketball team moved to St. Louis, my hometown, moved from Milwaukee. This was back in the early 50s, and they were called the Milwaukee Hawks. Nobody ever heard of them. They became the St. Louis Hawks. And at age 12, I picked up the phone and I said, "Can I be your water boy?" And I was the only kid in town to think about that. At the end of the interview, again, I was the only applicant. The coach, a gentleman by the name of Red Holzman, who went on to coach the Knicks to the NBA championship, said, "Son, you'll just be working for prestige. Is that okay?" And I said, "Yes, sir." "Do you know what that word means?" "No, sir. That means you're not going to get paid." But now, first season, it was my first year in junior high school. So I could say, "Hey, Ryan. Hey, Billy. Hey, Jim. Hey, Mark. You want to come down to Kiel Auditorium with me? My dad will take us down before the game, pick us up. You can help me hand out towels and pour water for the Hawks or the visitors, the Celtics or the Knicks or other teams." And a guy who was on that team, and in the second year, the Hawks were in St. Louis. They actually won the NBA championship 57-58, beating the Boston Celtics. But a player on that team became the general manager and coach of the San Diego Rockets. He had brought me to his rookie camps when he was coaching in the Cincinnati Royals, and he thought I was a good judge of talent. So he brought me to San Diego, and I became the chief scout of the San Diego Rockets in 67-68. I did such a fabulous job of scouting. The team had to leave town and move to Houston. They're now known as the Houston.
So, Max, in that role, you also produce sports camps for children and basketball fantasy camps for adults. You got to meet some really great sports legends like Willie Mays and Magic and John Wooden. What did you learn from them?
One of the things that they all have in common, all successful athletes, is really hard work. you've got to work hard. Pat Riley was on the San Diego Rockets first year I was there, and then of course, he went on to coach the Lakers, and he's been coach and general manager of the Miami Heat, and has been in 25% of all the NBA finals as either a player, coach, or an executive. So seeing Pat develop I learned a lot from him. We're contemporaries, about the same age. But the person I learned the most from was John Wooden. So I was fortunate enough to run Coach Wooden's camps while he finished his career at UCLA and then into retirement. And, sometimes you read about these guys with big names and they aren't really who the public thinks they are. But John Wooden was very special. He's as close to a saint as I'll ever know. And my guess is that anybody would ever know if they were fortunate enough to have met him. He's just a really special human being with not a prejudiced bone in his body, never said anything bad about anybody, paid close attention to detail. I remember one day we were walking from the gym to lunch and on this concrete walkway, and on the grass about 20 feet in from us was a piece of paper. He just got up, walked over, picked up the piece of paper because he didn't like to see something messy. And it was just a really, really special human being. We did basketball fantasy camps with him, and he introduced the 5 or 6 ex-UCLA players that were there. And when he introduced them, he stood behind them and he had his hands on their shoulders. And as he was introducing them, it was really interesting because he was actually massaging their shoulders. The love that he had for these guys and that they had for him was very, very special. He's, written a lot of books and had a lot of sayings and be quick, but don't hurry. Make every day your masterpiece. And one day his great grandson was over at his house after having eaten at Coach Wooden's favorite Chinese restaurant in Los Angeles. And the young man said, and the preface to the story is that the owner of the restaurant said to Coach Wooden several years before this, can I put some of your sayings in my fortune cookies? And he said, sure. So fast forward several years, his great grandson is over, had just eaten at the restaurant. And he said, Pawpaw, now I know where you got all those sayings. True story. True story.
That's fantastic. Max, you also are really good at connecting founders to resources and investors. And when you're connecting other founders to investors and other resources through your efforts at Pitchfork, what do you want these founders to know most about growing their businesses?
Yeah. We've been running pitch events for 10 years, the last 3 years online, 7 years prior, alternating where I live in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And what really resonates with investors is people who are passionate about what they're doing. And their what is the why story is really important. And if they're passionate about it, doesn't matter whether English is their first language or not, just the ability to get people excited about what they're doing, not just investors and not in a fake way, but, with validity and gravitas. And then to be able to motivate them, because if you're in the startup world, you're working 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, the joke out here is, you're working at a startup when you worked a 40-hour week and it's lunchtime on Wednesday. It's not too much of an exaggeration. So it's, people need to be motivated. The entrepreneurs need to be passionate about what they're doing. They need to have put some of their own skin in the game, invested some of their own money, and they need to be focused on building a great team, because their challenge initially is raising money, and once they've raised the money, then adding great people to their team is important, and that's what we've been helping companies with for 23 years. And we say you can't build a great company without great people. If you think about it, if you raised a lot of money and you're settling for B and C players instead of A players, you're not gonna build a great company. And hiring people that are smarter than you, having your ego not get in the way, and know that, hey, I may be an expert in this field, but this guy is smart, gal is smarter than me, and I need him or her on our team.
Max, I'm really glad you were talking about connecting founders to resources. I mean, really, you being on this show is why this podcast exists. And so for the listeners and viewers out there who are listening to Max right now, you might be stuck on one of those plateaus of no growth and you want to grow your business. So for us to get more guests like Max to help you grow your business, we'd really like to have you like, follow, and subscribe, share the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, and also interact with us. Leave comments below, give us feedback, contact the show. And again, what that does is it grows the show. We get great guests like Max on here, and that will help you grow your business. Now, Max, you've also done your share of advising founders and finding them talent, including with your Employees Without Paychecks program. What is one thing that every founder needs to understand about growth that they often are not proactive enough about?
I think you've got to have a really strong marketing plan. It's not just, we'll hear people pitch and say, well, what's your go-to-market strategy? Well, we're going to work with some influencers and we're going to buy some SEO. That's not a plan. And if marketing is not your forte, find a marketing consultant that can devise that plan for you and then follow it. And, the old saying, it takes money to make money. You've got to be able to spend some money, whether it's on a marketing consultant. And once you've got those leads coming in, you need to be able to have salespeople that know how to close them and to continue to build the pipeline and be aware of things that, all the changes that are going on in marketing happening so quickly with AI. I was just at a conference where they're talking about Gen Z, which is ages 11 to 26. They're not going to websites to buy stuff. They're buying stuff from TikTok, from Instagram. This one company is helping big companies find out what's going on in the heads and minds of these young people. And so they're able to do online, whether we're on TikTok or Instagram, do quick instant surveying and get back to McDonald's and let them know that, this new flavor and milkshake is not doing well. And here's why these young kids don't like it. I was just talking to somebody else just yesterday who needed to hire some young people who were familiar with TikTok. And again, it's 11 to 26. So he hired a whole bunch of smart college students from UCLA and USC and really good schools. And he said because they were in their late teens or early 20s, they didn't know how to use TikTok. So you hear Gen Z 11 to 26, they must know about TikTok. No, TikTok is the people using TikTok for the most part, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And these 18-year-olds, it had passed them by. It's amazing how quickly things are changing. So, to your point about marketing, you need to stay current on what's going on. You need to have a plan, plan your work and work your plan. That old cliche definitely applies here.
Max, you had to grow into a strategic and visionary executive. So what was the hardest part about that for you? And, what or who helped you out the most?
Well, I've got some really good advisors who are really strong on the strategic side. I'm more of a GSD guy. I get stuff done. So having people around me that are strategic and numbers people who will take a look at what we're doing and get me to focus on those things are really important. I know there's a lot of CEOs that are very strategic and they're surrounded by strategic, but there are other people who aren't. And, maybe, you as a CEO or the sales biz dev, Mr. Outside, and you need a Mr. Inside or Ms. Inside, who is that strategic person.
Max, I have really enjoyed having you on the show, and I'm so glad you shared what you're able to share with our listeners and viewers. I want to give you a chance to tell our listeners and viewers how to get a hold of you, and then talk about some of the projects you're working on.
Sure, be happy to. So if anybody's looking to raise funds for any kind of startup, whether you're looking for a seed round, pre-seed, you want to pitch to angel investors that are friends of mine, or you're looking for an A round, pitch to venture capitalists, or if you have a life science company, so just presenting to only angel life science investors, angels and VCs, we can help you there. And then once you have funding, what we do is PeopleConnect, which is a 23-year-old boutique recruiting firm, which is really unique in that, a lot of recruiters will say, hey, Ryan, if you need a CFO, we're your go-to company. Or if you're looking for VP of salespeople, we can help. We're different. We fill any type of position. We've been doing it for a while. We do it on a contingency basis. So, like you, I'm an old Midwestern guy. You're not old, but I'm old and from the Midwest. You're just from the Midwest and young. But so I believe, Missouri is called the show me state. So we don't ask to get paid unless we're successful. In terms of, getting in touch with me, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. I'm connected to over 26,000 people, or if people just want to email me, max@peopleconnectstaffing.com. Love to talk to them. And as far as something new, we just started something we're calling Life Sciences Connected, and we're creating a free group of like-minded individuals in life science. One will be for CEOs, where they can get together, trusted advisors, trusted friends, and can share challenges they might have. And then we've got another division of that that's for COOs and CFOs, and VP of Finance and VP of Operations. So if people just reach out to me, we'll love to put them in touch. And we're doing another one in July, where our guest speaker is going to be a guy who has too many letters before his name: DDS, MD, MBA, VC. So this guy, his name is Gary Goldman. He graduated high school 2 years early. It shows you how smart he is. He was a dentist. He's been a doctor. He got an MBA from Wharton, and now he's a venture capitalist. And so, people will get a chance to listen to him, and then there'll be breakout rooms where people who are there will be able to get to know each other.
Max, again, thank you so much for being in the podcast. I love that you are working on something new. That's fantastic. That's really inspiring to me.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure being with you, Ryan, and I love the way you run this podcast.
Well, I couldn't do the podcast without a few gentlemen that I'm going to mention here in a little bit. But again, my name is Ryan Kauth. I'm the host of the Fractional Executive podcast. You can get a hold of me at ryankauth.coach. And the guys that make the podcast sizzle are from influencer.tv. It's the team of Mark Livingston, Anna Marino, Chris Dries, and Brian Allen.